Hi everybody, Matthew Turnage here. Well, I recently got a chance to go back to my record store and thought I'd share with you what I picked up. Now, the first album I've got to show actually did not pick up at the record store. This one came in, I ordered this one online, and this is Having Fun with Elvis on Stage. And if you're not familiar with this one, it is a talking album only. I'd never heard of this album before a few weeks ago. See the back sleeve with Elvis's sold out concerts. Here's the inner bag too. The inner bag was very nice. I thought nice, pretty white on there, not too faded. But I'd never heard of this album before. Matthew Street mentioned it on his channel, just in passing almost. He was talking about odd records in the collection, and I said, really he just sort of held it up and said, if you've never heard of this one, you need to look it up. And I'm a pretty casual Elvis fan, so I'd never really heard of this. And when I looked it up and read that it was once named the worst rock and roll album of all time, I knew I had to have it. As it says, it's a talking album only. If you're not familiar with this one, the idea is that Colonel Tom decided to put out an album since Elvis's contract with RCA in Colonel Parker's view only covered Elvis singing. Colonel Tom could put out on his own boxcar label an album of Elvis just talking. So it's taken from actual live Elvis concerts, is between song banter, and that's all it is the between song banter. No songs. Of course, Colonel Tom was mistaken in his thought. RCA did own the rights to those recordings too, so after selling the boxcar version live, RCA issued it in stores. This is the first RCA pressing that I've got, and it is totally weird, totally bizarre, no context to Elvis's comments. Sometimes what he's talking about is pretty interesting. Sometimes it makes not much sense whatsoever. Sometimes it's kind of funny. So it's not an album I'll be listening to a lot, but I'm definitely glad I picked it up. So thank you to Matthew Street. If you're not familiar with Matthew Street's channel, it's one of my favorites on YouTube. Please go check it out. Matt's a great guy. So thanks, Matt. All right, next up I've got Rainbow Down to Earth, and this is a white label promo copy. See the for promotion only on the back, the stamp. Of course, I've talked about loving Deep Purple. I also love a lot of the Deep Purple offshoot bands, Rainbow, Whitesnake, Gillan, etc. Rainbow, my favorite of the offshoots. So this is the white label promo, the first post-Dio Rainbow album, and I absolutely love the Dio years. It's the best version of Rainbow, but this is not very far behind. Graham Bonnet on vocals. It's a killer album. So of course you've also got Deep Purple's Roger Glover producing the album, co-writing a lot of the songs with Ritchie Blackmore and playing bass. Cozy Powell's still there on drums, and current Deep Purple keyboardist Don Airey on this album too. Great lineup. They were a powerhouse live, judging from the live recordings I have, but glad to have that white label promo copy of that album. All right, next up I've got some solo Beatles, and we've got first up there's John Lennon live in New York City, and this one is still in the shrink. I mentioned before on a video that I don't really care about shrink. It's really more that I'm sort of agnostic about it. When I buy a new record, I just rip the shrink off, but if I buy an older record that's a nice copy that's still in the shrink, I'll buy it and leave the shrink in. There's the inner bag. It's pretty nice. The photo of John and Yoko on the back. And of course this came out in '86. So we've got the Capitol Retro Rainbow label, which I always liked. I think this is a really strong live album. If you're comparing it to other solo Beatle live albums, you know, it's not as good as Wings Over America or Amoeba Gig. It's another great Paul live album, but I think it's a really, really good listen. I think John comes off pretty well on stage. The backing band, Elephant's Memory, does a good job with the songs, and I think the song selection is really great too. Really cool version of New York City kicking this album off. So there's John Lennon live in New York City. Here's another solo Beatles in the Shrink, and this is Wings at the Speed of Sound. Still the Wings sticker on it there. This was a #1 album for Wings back in '76, and the #1 hit single with Silly Love Songs off this one too. It's sort of an up and down record in my opinion. Paul's got some really great songs on here with Silly Love Songs, Let 'Em In, the album opener. I think that one went to #3. But Paul wanted it to be a real band album, so everybody gets a chance to sing. Linda's song, Cook of the House, is okay. Actually, Denny Lane really brought his A game on this album, I thought. Time to Hide, I think, is one of the best songs Wings ever did, whether written by Paul or not. I love that song. So glad to have a nice copy of that album in the collection now, and go on to picked up another Paul McCartney 12-inch single, Take It Away. And that's glad to get this one too. You know, I used to never care for 12-inch singles. I remember being in college and going to the local record store every once in a while. At that time, I actually didn't even have a working turntable, but I was enjoying collecting records here and there just for the artwork. And I remember I'd look through them and see 12-inch singles and think, why on earth would somebody want a 12-inch single? I guess that was, you know, the heart of the CD era. And I was kind of in that same mindset of the CD era. I think, you know, it's, you know, why waste all that space? But nowadays I really enjoy them, so glad to get that one. And now, lastly, a couple Beatles albums. Again, still working here and there on getting the U.S. albums, since I had never gotten them on vinyl until just started buying them within about the last year, I guess. So, Hard Day's Night, of course, this one, United Artists. This is a mono pressing here, and on the United Artists label, you can see there, of course, I'll Cry Instead is mislabeled as I Cry Instead there. Track 3, just give you another look at that. But glad to have that. It's not a perfect copy by any means. You know, it's well played, but it sounds good enough when I listen to it, and you know, nice to have. Maybe if I come across a nicer copy later, I can upgrade. And then the last one I got, this one for historical purposes, of course, the Beatles live at the Star Club in Hamburg, Germany, 1962, and you know, as it says right there, it is a piece of history. I've had bootleg CDs of the Star Club stuff for a while now, but I thought it'd be nice to have the original Linga Song vinyl. But of course, I always look at this label and think of because it says, you'll notice it says Beatles. I always think of Paul saying to Yoko, actually, it's the Beatles, love. And of course, this is from the Airy C side 1, and on the reverse side 4. This is a double album. You know, the other record has sides 2 and 3, as was the style at the time. Putting them that way for record players, where you'd stack the records and then you'd flip over the stack. So you'd want the sides arranged that way. I know, just in terms of Beatles, my copies of rock and roll music and love songs, same way. Kind of annoying now, though, if you don't have that type of record player, but what can you do? So that's what I picked up this past trip to the record store, along with having fun with Elvis on stage that I ordered online. And thanks for watching.